we can hear me, but for some strange reason it seems the voice is just not coming out. Mohammed is also saying he can't hear me, which is weird. Very, 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 very weird. No, I'm this. The people on YouTube are the primary concern at the moment. Facebook should be a very simple, straightforward process. Okay, so somebody says they can hear me now. Ogunleye, thank you so much for that. All right, as promised, what I want to do today is to take some time and is to take out some time and discuss a few things about SOP and about research proposals for PTDF scholarship application. And these two things are very important because they have a very big impact on the chances you have of winning the scholarship, or the chances of, in fact, of being shortlisted in the first place. So if anybody is here and intending to apply for the PTDF scholarship, that person needs to pay very good attention to the conversation we're going to have today, because everything we'll be discussing will be very profitable to that particular individual. All right, and so we do this to help people. And I remember that when I mentioned I wanted to do some reviews of SOPs, I told us at that time that I was going to see if there is a pattern of recurring errors or a pattern of something that just keeps repeating itself through the SOPs that I was going to read. And then I was going to address those things. And that's what I am trying to do today. So if you are here, you are in the right place, and we're going to walk through these things really quickly, and then I will give room for some questions towards the end of the conversation. I trust that all of us are in agreement with that. So we are streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube. Just in case, Academy of Scholarships and Transitions on both platforms. In case you have issues with one platform, you can switch over to the other platform, and vice versa. If anything just happens, let's all get to take the full benefit of today's event. Now, the PTDF, first of all, if you join us, please let me know where you're joining from. Everybody who is here, please just let us know where you are joining from. I love to know who I'm talking with, who is joining from where, and then it helps us to manage the conversation more properly. Now, PTDF has a template for research proposals, right? And then PTDF also has a recommendation for your SOP. That's your statement of purpose. Now, if you are writing your statement of purpose, you need to always refer back to that guideline that PTDF has given. So what they have said is your SOP should address this, it should address this, and it should address the other one. So those questions that they want you to answer through that SOP are questions that you must answer. And when I was going through the review of the SOPs that came to me, I realized something. There are people who, for instance, they have like multiple ideas of what they want to study. So somebody wants to study something. The person feels like he can do reservoir engineering. The person feels like he can do process engineering. The person feels like his course is also relevant to refining of petroleum products and all that and all that. That kind of approach to writing your SOP will complicate the SOP writing process for you. And I'll tell you why shortly. Three elements that are critical to your SOP. Research proposal, I'm coming to you guys. There are three things that are critical to your SOP. The first one is tell us why you want to study this course. What is the reason for which you want to go into the study of this course? Why are you studying it? Are you taking up this course because it is your passion? Are you taking up this course because one of your lecturers motivated you to take it up? Are you taking up this course because you believe it's going to solve a major problem in the oil and gas industry in Nigeria? Are you taking up this course because it aligns with your current expertise, like your previous work experience and all that kind of thing? Why exactly are you taking up this course that you want to study? All right. Then so if you tell them why you are taking up the course, the next thing you want to tell them is what is the relevance of that course you are proposing to study to the oil and gas industry. I believe we know these things. What is the relevance of the course to the oil and gas industry? Now, after you've defined the relevance of the cost to the oil and gas industry, the third component is how does this impact national economy or the development of Nigeria as a country? To all the followers from all the other parts of the world, from Malawi, from Gambia, Kenya, and the rest of the place, apologies. Today we are focusing on a scholarship opportunity that is just uniquely dedicated to Nigerians alone. Is PTDF, is government funded by the government of Nigeria, and then it's just for Nigerian citizens. So apologies, because today we are just focusing on the Nigerians, and not even all Nigerians, but Nigerians who are applying for this particular scholarship. Now, how do you define your reason for taking up a course? When I read through the SOPs, I saw people write reasons from the perspective of either the environment or their passion for the environment. I also saw I saw someone who wrote from the perspective of how his lecturer impacted his decision, like, spoke to them, taught them something about a particular subject area. I'm not going to mention the details of any of those because those are private documents of people. So I'm not going to say that this person wrote this exactly or the other person wrote the other one exactly. I won't go into that level of detail. But you will see somebody who was motivated by his lecturer. You see another person who is motivated by a passion. You see another person who is being motivated based on what that person has seen in the oil and gas industry. That's from actual practice of oil and gas, actual practice as an oil and gas professional. Now, your reason, your why can be your defining factor, and that's why you don't need to copy these things from any particular template, because your why can be another person's why. Your why cannot be another person's why, in the sense that what makes you want to study a course is unique to you, is special, is peculiar to you. And there are not two people who have that particular reason for wanting to study a course. People might be wanting to study the same course, but they are... Okay, so just a moment. The guys on YouTube, how is it with you guys? Is it clear now? Can you follow? Are you following the conversation, or is it breaking somewhere along the line? Please just confirm. I want to know. I want to be sure that we are getting the message clearly. I think some guys are confirming that it's okay on other platforms. Are you getting it clear on YouTube? Somebody just write me a message in the comment section. Let me see. Okay, thank you so much. Now, when you come to this point of writing your SOP, the reason for which you are taking this course can vary. And the reason for which you are taking a course can be as simple as this is a course that you already have a good background in. All right, so you are starting your introduction of the SOP, and you are trying to tell a story that, okay, because of this is why I want to do this. Or conventionally, you can start from from introducing yourself in the SOP. That is to say, maybe a master's degree holder in this and this, or a bachelor's degree holder, a first class bachelor's degree holder in this and this, wanting to or applying for the PTDF scholarship to study so and so course. Now, whether you start that way or you start from your real motivation depends on the quality of your results. So if you had like a first class, I would say blow that trumpet of the first class from the onset. And before I forget, for those of you who are complaining that you can't find a place to upload your professional membership on the portal, I want to also say that your SOP gives you that opportunity to even mention your professional body memberships. So if I am a member of the Society of Petroleum Engineers, and PTDF has mentioned clearly in the adverts and said that they value membership of professional bodies. Now, if they did not include a segment for me to upload that, I will come to my SOP and mention it and say that I hold maybe a graduate membership of this particular organization. That's in me introducing myself. If I'm writing it as somebody who has a very solid first class, I would encourage you to mention that first class, because what you are trying to do by all means through your SOP is to bias the opinion or bias the mind of the person who is reading it. And I don't mean bias in a negative way, but that's essentially what you do. When you're applying for a job or you're applying for a scholarship, you are trying to bias the mind of the reader such that the person can favor you, or the person can see a reason why he or she should give you that particular scholarship or that particular job. So you are effectively biasing the mind of people. If you have a first class and your first class is solid enough, that first class can be a point of biasing the mind of the person who is going to read it. So mention it. Your professional membership can be another point of biasing the mind of the person. So mention it, because this person is going to read it and then the person is going to give you a grade upon which or that's now going to affect whether or not you are chosen for the scholarship. So as much as possible, try the best you can to bias the minds of the people towards your favor. So mention the quality of your degree if that degree is of high grade, right? And then mention your professional memberships, because they already told you that they value it. I believe we are following what I am trying to say. Now, the other thing that you can do is, for those of you who have got work experience, you try to also reflect that you have been in the industry and you understand these pain points from a practical perspective. So it's a different thing for somebody to say, I want to go and study well engineering not just after graduating, and another person is saying, I want to go and study well engineering because I understand that in the UK you have access to maybe well designed softwares which many Nigerians do not know how to use, for instance, and then the Nigerians are relying on foreign expatriates to come teach them or to come deploy those software tools for them. I believe we are following what I'm trying to say. This is not to say that those who have not worked in the industry before cannot win PTDF scholarship. When my friend wanted to do his PhD, he had not worked in any oil and gas industry before. All right. So, but I am trying to say that where you have your trumpet, blow that trumpet loud for yourself. Bias the mind of the people. But here is a mistake that you must not make when you are writing your SOP or even writing your research proposal. Don't try to make the people, don't try to give them work to do. The only work the reviewers are supposed to do is to study that thing that you have submitted to them, read through it, and then make good sense and be able to make good judgment based on what you have submitted to them. Now, if you start trying to paint a picture, you don't try to be artistic. All right, don't try to paint an image for them and start saying things like, maybe imagine a situation where Nigeria goes from this to this, or imagine a situation where this happens and the other one happens. That's the job of the reviewer is not to imagine. The job of the reviewer at the point of reading your SOP or research proposal is to be able to fish out what you are saying directly from that work. And remember, you are not there to defend it at this point. You will, of course, be there at the point of the interviews, but at this point, you are not there. And again, the quality of the SOP you submit now and the research proposal you submit now is going to affect your interview, because everything you do at the interview stage, most of them will be centered on what you submit to them at the moment. So you want to do the thorough work, do the homework properly, submit what is of high quality, high impact, covers everything, and answers every possible question that the people will be asking. Now, I've mentioned that you should not make the people try to imagine. Don't force them to think. Don't force them to start imagining beyond the scope of what they are supposed to do, all right? And the second thing you must also try to avoid in your SOP is, remember that your SOP is limited in word count, all right? So your SOP is going to just be like 500 words maximum. And there are certain information that are obvious. All right. So if I come now and I'm trying to tell somebody that the oil and gas industry is the main sustenance or the main sustenance of the Nigerian economy, everybody knows that in Nigeria. Even outside Nigeria, most people know. All right. So you don't want to use basic information, general knowledge information, to saturate your SOP when you are competing against words. So you have 500 words to play with. You don't want to go to the SOP and then bombard it with information that is public knowledge, something everybody knows. You want to come from the position of, yes, we already know that Nigeria depends on oil, all right? Except in a situation where you are trying to drive a point. You are trying to say, okay, Nigeria produces X barrel of oil per month, which is general knowledge. And then you are proposing a solution or a study that has the capacity to increase Nigeria's production factor by 10%. So because you are now mentioning 10%, there needs to be a reference point so that somebody can weigh that 10% and know what exactly is the 10%, what exactly is the quantity, the volume of the 10% you are talking about, except where that is the case. But if that is not the case, don't saturate your SOP with general knowledge information. I believe we are getting to where I am going. Now, there are some general information that you can use. For instance, if I am going to write about the air pollution problem in Nigeria, for instance, or the oil spillage problem in Nigeria, Ogoni is a very known case of oil spillage disaster on land. Then Port Harcourt is a general knowledge environment where air pollution has been a major problem in Nigeria. You can make references to those things, but from the position of they are your motivation. You are trying to solve this problem. So it's a different thing when you say there is this problem which we know, and my study is going to solve this problem. That's different from you trying to tell somebody that, oh, Nigeria makes the highest barrel of oil in Africa, and your solution, your proposal is not saying you want to increase oil production. It's not saying you want to increase revenue from oil by cutting down the cost of producing oil or any of those things. Where you are not trying to solve a problem that is, where you're not trying to solve a particular problem that is common knowledge, don't saturate your information and your SOP with general knowledge information. Does that make sense? All right, so if you are still on the live stream, there is something you can always do when you join live streams. And I say this because I believe that every one of us here also at some point might be streaming live like what I am doing. If you go to YouTube, for instance, click on the comment section, you will see a heart sign somewhere by the side. That heart sign, you can tap on it like regularly, as many times as possible. You can keep tapping on it. It sends a message to the YouTube algorithm that says something good is happening here. Push it out for more people who are on YouTube to be able to see it and then come in and watch what is happening. On Facebook, if you just tap on that heart sign as well, it does the same thing. It has the same impact, and then it pushes out the live stream to more people, and more people are able to come in and they are able to learn with us. So please do that for me. I can see somebody doing it on YouTube. Thank you so much for doing that. Now, let's continue. So when you write your SOP, the other problem I noticed, which seemed to be a pattern, was especially for those who do not have direct background in oil and gas, it's a bit challenging for them to link up their existing course or the course they've studied in the past with the course they want to study and then bridge that with the relevance to the oil and gas industry. But I want to simplify it for us just very quickly. You see, if I studied something like, let me say, medicine and surgery, for instance, and I am applying for PTDF scholarship, I am not going to apply and tell PTDF that I want to switch from medicine to oil and gas. The reason why that is not going to fly is because Nigeria needs doctors. And PTDF's mandate is not to turn doctors to oil and gas professionals. All right? But there is a mandate that PTDF has that covers you, the doctor, who wants to now major in something that is in oil and gas. And that is the intersection between oil and gas and medical practice. And these are the possibilities that you can now begin to think of. You can go to, maybe say, as a starting point, you can go to ChatGPT and say, you are a graduate of this particular course and you want to apply for a scholarship on this particular, to apply for this particular scholarship, and the scholarship requires you to study a course that is relevant to the oil and gas industry, and then ask it, which course or how can my current course, my medicine and surgery, be applicable to oil and gas industry? All right, you can now ask it, how can my medicine and surgery be applicable to the oil and gas industry? And it's going to tell you, it will give you ideas, and then based on those ideas you can now refine and try to fine-tune, do further studies, and then come up with something that sounds reasonably good, convincing enough. Now, if I am going to do it as somebody who has worked in the oil and gas industry before, I am going to tell you for free that as a medical doctor, I could think about areas in the oil and gas industry. For instance, those guys who go offshore and they are staying offshore for like 10 days, for like 5 days, for like 21 days, sometimes a full month. I can decide to sit down and look at what is the health implication of this particular environment where they are staying on them. Are they going to be, of course, they stay offshore, and offshore you have direct contact with the sun in terms of there are no trees. The only things you have there are like the shades that are provided by the platform and all of that, but there are no trees. So does this have an impact on the health of the people? Are they taking so much radiation? Or are they taking so much reflection from the water? Because when the sun shines, the water is going to reflect that light back to the eyes of the people. How exactly is this affecting them? So I'm looking at it from the position of what you can call public health, but it is applicable to oil and gas people. And at that point, you are not telling PTDF that I want to leave medical practice completely. You are telling them that there is a problem the oil and gas industry has that the engineers cannot solve. And they need a medical understanding to be able to get those problems solved. And that is the problem you want to fix. And the same thing goes for all the other courses. If you look at maybe microbiology, you look at any of the other courses. If you look at microbiology, for instance, you can start thinking about cleaning up oil spillages. For instance, you can start thinking about enhanced oil recovery using microbes or using any of those kind of things. There are quite a number of areas. If you can't figure it out, ask ChatGPT. Don't try to don't try to make PTDF feel like you are leaving a critical course to go and study oil and gas engineering when Nigeria does not even have sufficient hands in that particular field that you have studied. I say this because the first time when I applied for PTDF, I made a proposal to them of a particular research that was going to take something. It's a particular food product in Nigeria. I don't want to go into the details, but I was going to use it. I had looked at it primarily and I saw that this could have potential application in drilling fluids. And then I said, okay, let's make this proposal and see how we can enhance this for use in the oil and gas industry. And we had a very heated argument that day at the interview stage, because the man was like, this is food. We don't even have enough food in this country. So how are you going to take off the little bit we have, and then convert it to engineering use when people have not finished feeding on it. And as much as I try to make the argument for, well, these plants can be, we can expand the plantations of this particular plant in Nigeria. And I think I even gave an estimate of how many years that the plant was going to take to reach maturation and all that. But regardless, there was that argument. So don't make the case for you are leaving medical practice. Anything in medical practice, whether it's dentistry, it is medicine and surgery, it is pharmacy, it is anything that is medical, is a critical field in most of the African countries. They still need you. But there are applications, there are areas of application within the oil and gas industry that your course can be applied to. And that's what you want to be emphasizing. The people who study like public relations, for instance, you can look for areas in terms of conflict management where that your knowledge is applicable, and then you are linking it up that this is what you have studied before, this is what you are going to study now, this is how they link up. The course that you have studied before, they said it has to be relevant to what you are trying to study, but you need to show them that relevance. All right, you need to show them that relevance, make that link clear in what you are writing. Now, let's leave all of these ones and then go to the main things that PTDF has demanded of us. PTDF says your research proposal, your SOP must have define the relevance of the course you want to study to the oil and gas industry. I believe we all know that. So when they say that you must define that relevance, I want to tell us the simplest way to think about it. Bring your pen, bring your paper, because you may not see this information in your other place. So when you want to think about relevance and impact, like relevance of the cost to the oil and gas industry, impact on national development, you want to think about what exactly is the PTDF's mandate. That's the starting point. And when you look at PTDF's mandate, the core mandate of PTDF is to develop local human capacity. All right. So PTDF was established mainly with the purpose of helping Nigerians to gain relevant skills and be able to take up positions within the oil and gas industry. Is that correct? Now, if we all accept that baseline, then your impact on national development, the first impact that you should be thinking about is all these things that you are studying now. How does that help you as a person? That's first, to improve your capacity as a Nigerian. All right. And how can you take that knowledge and then help PTDF to reach out to the Nigerians who are not able to win PTDF scholarship directly? Does that make some sense to us? So if I say, for instance, that I am going to study well abandonment, which is my own area in the industry. If you have looked at my LinkedIn profile since yesterday, you would have seen my recent publication in well abandonment. But well abandonment, for instance, I can look at it from the position of Nigerians. In fact, there is no course curriculum for well abandonment at undergraduate level in Nigeria at the moment. And we have the case where we have a lot of oil wells that are old, over 30 years, over 40 years. In fact, I was doing a recent research and I was finding some oil wells that are somewhere in the range of 70 years old in Nigeria. I think 60 something to 70 years old. All these wells are aged. They need to be abandoned. They need to be plugged. But we don't have a course curriculum in our schools that teaches well abandonment. So when I'm talking about impact on national development, I can decide to say that at the end of my course, I have a plan to start a training center for Nigerians. Or I have a plan to start a training center where I teach people about well abandonment. Or I have a plan to run a monthly webinar, a free webinar that's going to run monthly, where I am helping young Nigerians to learn about well abandonment, the necessities, the implications, and all that. Or I can also go further to say that my understanding of the community relationships between the oil and gas producing communities and the oil industries, I understand that, there are certain demands that they make of the industry. And then my understanding of well abandonment is that the companies are not going to be making money off the abandonment. So there needs to be a balance between the expectations of the host communities and what the companies can offer at every given point. Now, if the companies cannot offer money, then somebody needs to negotiate that deal or negotiate that through, pass that message, communicate it through to the host communities to say that at this point in the industry's life, they are not able to make payments, they're not able to make contributions, they're not able to do this or to do that. So I'm going to now say that my contribution to national development can be to champion that conversation between the industry and the host communities, so that we don't end up with wells that are not abandoned because the communities were at some point maybe not in agreement with the companies and all that. I can also go further to say that at the end of this study, I want to do there's something called life cycle assessment. I don't know how many of us are familiar with it. That I want to do like a life cycle assessment of Nigeria's existing oil and gas infrastructure to determine the best method of decommissioning them and the best approach to sustainable recycling or reuse of those oil and gas infrastructure. I'm talking about things that can be your impact. And you see, I have mentioned human capital development, I have mentioned community relations and this goes very straight to those of you who are going to study conflict management and all those kind of courses. And I am also mentioning something about sustainability. And sustainability allows Nigeria now to key into or to be compliant with the global sustainability and net zero targets that have been established. So you see that each of these things, I can link it up to what is relevant, how it is relevant to Nigeria. If I say that I'm going to train people, the way I like to write is, I love to give numbers to my writing. If you have seen me write CVs or talk about CV writing, you know that I'm very big on metrics. There has to be numbers to the things you are doing. So if I say that I'm going to finish my course and I want to contribute to the training of maybe I want to contribute to national development by training people. The question is, how many people am I willing to train and what are the conditions under which I'm going to train these people? I can say, for instance, that the cost of coming to take up a course on well abandonment in Aberdeen, which is where I am, is maybe £600 per person. And then this is not considering the cost of traveling from Nigeria to this place. So I now say, and then the cost of accommodation. I now say that I am going to provide this cost locally, and the people are going to have the option to pay in Naira, which saves the country, forex. And not just that it saves us forex from the exchange point of view, but it also saves us cost because I'm offering it in Naira at a relatively cheaper price. And even if I offer it at the exact same price that the people here are offering it, I'm going to save that cost of transportation. So I can now say that if on the average I intend to train 100 people per year, these are metrics that will bring up, these are the things that will make your SOP different from everybody's SOP. So I say that I'm going to train 100 people per year in well abandonment, or I target to train 100 people per year in well abandonment or in any other area, how to use microbes to clean up soil, how to use this to do that, how to whatever it is. I say that, okay, if these people were to study this course in another country, it's going to cost them on the average $2,000 cost of transportation and all this. So if I'm going to train them in Nigeria at a cost of $500 per person, then I am saving about $1,500 per head. Multiply that by 100. The numbers are beginning to build up. And then if you do that for a period of 5 years, the numbers begin to start getting huge. That amount of money can be reinvested into Nigeria. I believe we are getting the point I'm trying to make. And then, of course, you can take out people from the host communities and say that in every class you have, one person or two persons from the host community is going to join that class for free. And that is going to be the way you are contributing to stabilizing the tension between the host communities and the industry and the host community and the government. Am I giving out too much? Am I giving out too much information? All right, so that's it on that's the part of national development. Now, the other part of national development that you can talk about is, so you are looking at national development from the angle of human capital development and the money you can save for the country, or the money you can make for the country, or how you can make the country compliant with international obligations. Like Nigeria is signed up to the United Nations. The United Nations has the interest in becoming like making all countries net zero by a particular period. So any of those things that you are feeling is going to help the country. You're going to save the country money. You're going to manage community relations between the host community and the people. You're going and the government or the companies. You are going to help the government to train more people. And if I am in PTDF, I believe that if I see somebody who wants to help me to accomplish my goal, I'm going to support that person. I'll be interested in listening to the person, because quite often human beings love to think about ourselves. We center our attention on ourselves. What can I gain from this? But the moment you begin to think in the other person's shoes, PTDF has this position, this mandate. How can I help them to actualize the mandate? So I would expect every one of us here to think about how you can support the mandate of PTDF through capacity development, and then all the other additions that you can bring in will be dependent on the particular course that you're going to study or the particular area that you're going to study. If you are going to talk about impacts on the oil and gas companies or relevance to the oil and gas companies, there are a number of things that you must bear in mind. And I say this as somebody who has been in the industry from both the operatorship side, the management consulting side, and then the service side. The industry thinks about, one, the barrel. All right? The industry thinks about the barrel and then thinks about getting that barrel at the lowest possible cost and with the lowest possible risk exposure. I don't know if we are getting the point I'm making. So the industry is thinking about the oil, the amount of barrel or the cubic feet of gas that they can produce, the volume of gas they can produce, or the barrel of oil that they can produce. And they are thinking about it from the position of how can we produce this most efficiently. That is, we are producing this and it's not going to cost us so much, and we are not going to run into hazards, and we're not going to run into emergencies and health situations and all that. And the fourth component is we don't want to pollute our environment. So when we say health and safety, it is both the human health and the health of the environment, the safety of the personnel and the safety of the environment. The industry wants the oil. The industry wants to produce at the lowest possible price, but the industry does not want to compromise on the safety of personnel and the purity of the environment. So when you are talking about impact of your course on the industry, or the relevance of your course on the to the industry, you need to think about any of these things that I have mentioned. Is your course going to help the industry to produce more oil? Is the course you are going to study, will it help the industry to reduce the cost of production? Or is it going to help the industry to improve safety on oil field operations? And is it going to help the industry to reduce environmental impact? Then for the people coming from the arts side of things, is it going to help the industry to improve relationship with the host communities? If you can answer any of these questions on your relevance of your course to the industry, then you've ticked that box. Now, let me give us typical examples so that it makes clearer sense to us. If I am going to study, say, petroleum engineering in my master's, the primary assignment is to maybe say I'm majoring in reservoir engineering, or I want to major in production engineering, or I want to major in any of those aspects of oil and gas. Then I want to start thinking of, am I going to enhance oil production? If I'm going to enhance oil production, then what is the metric that helps me? So master's is not like a PhD where you are taking a full-blown research and then you are trying to solve one big problem. For the master's degree, you can just look through the industry and say, in the industry at the moment, I have people, for instance, who I have like publications of people who have said, we did this particular operation in the Gulf of Mexico and we improved recovery factor of oil by this amount. So if I am saying that I am going to study this particular course, I am trying to tell the industry that through the deployment of my knowledge when I am done, we'll be able to increase oil recovery in Nigeria by maybe 5% based on the reference that the other person has given. All right, or based on the experience from the other part of the world. And again, when I talk about these things, I'm trying to also think of it from, because most people will say you train them, they will come back and then they replace the what they call them, the expatriates. But the question becomes, if you replace the expatriate, what exactly is the implication of that to the company in which you have replaced that expatriate? And how easy will it be for you to just come back to Nigeria and replace the expatriate? So if you are replacing the expatriate, what will be the financial benefit of replacing that expatriate to the company? How much does the expatriate charge at the moment? And how much will you be able to charge as a person? I don't know if we are making this following me. So there needs to be that clear comparison so that you are not just saying, okay, I'll come back and replace the expatriate, and so what? You replace the expatriate and you are charging the company the same amount of money, and the company is paying you in dollars. So you're replacing the expatriate has not reduced overhead cost for the company, and that's why it's not like a direct relevance to the company. But if you are saying something like, okay, I'm going to study this particular area of oil and gas, and I know that the indigenous companies in Nigeria have not been able to operate at this particular scale. So when I go and study this particular area of oil and gas, I will come back and then try to push the local companies into that particular frontier of the oil and gas business. If you look at the oil and gas companies in Nigeria, mostly look at Seplat, you look at apart from you look at Seplat, you look at ITO, you look at Midwestern, you look at most of them, they are mostly operating on land and swamp areas, and then sometimes on shallow waters. I think some of the assets that Seplat bought from ExxonMobil now are in shallow waters, continental shelf. But if you start looking at the deep water environment, you see that it's mostly the IOCs dominating those places. And even the local companies that have investments in deep water operations are not operating those assets. So they are invested, they are joint venture partners, but they are not the ones operating the assets, because the technology and the challenges, the cost of operating in deep waters is overwhelming for most of the local companies. So you can come from the position of there is a particular limitation that is stopping the local companies from operating in the deep waters. You are going to study, you are going to learn, and when you come back, you will help the local companies to move into that particular area. You are going to help them to move into that particular area. All right, but if that is not the case, then you are not really making any impact on the industry, or you are not showing the relevance directly. Again, always remember that if you are talking about saving money for the industry, do a cost comparison. How much in exact terms can you save? Like, project the amount of money, make wise calculations, say, and it's easy to find. If you go to ChatGPT or to Google and ask it what is the salary of maybe a pipeline engineer, or the salary of a drilling engineer in Nigeria, or an expatriate drilling engineer in Nigeria, it will give it to you, at least an estimate. So you can now use that estimate to walk down the particular percentage of savings that you will bring to the industry when you get there. Now, for those who are looking at, a lot of people are going to be looking at the Niger Delta, the pipelines, the all the pollution and all that and all that. You need to define the scope of what you are doing and stay within that scope. The reason I say this is because the problems, environmental problems, are many. And everybody knows that you can't solve all the problems. And when you come up and lump all the problems together, it becomes difficult for you to define relevance, and it becomes difficult for you to define national impact or impact on national, what's it called again, national development, because you'll be confused as to, are you going to define national impact of CO2 emission or CO2 emission reduction? Or are you going to define national impact of oil spillage cleanup? Or are you going to define national impact of maybe how spillages affect farmlands? All of those things begin to confuse you. But if you are trying to define national impacts from the position of, if you are trying to define national impact from a niched kind of study, you are saying that you want to talk about pipeline vandalism, for instance. That's what you want to tackle through your study. If that is what you want to tackle, then it becomes easy for you to quantify the impact and the effect that that is going to have on the industry and on the national economy. Say, for instance, you know the Transfocados pipeline, for instance. And you know, you can maybe Google and see how much, what's the volume of oil that Transfocados carries, or the Nembe trunk line. How many barrels of oil does it transport per day? And then you can say that any shutdown of this particular pipeline is going to cost the country 20,000 barrels of oil per day, for instance. And then 20,000 barrels of oil per day means 20 times maybe $100. 20,000 times $100. If the price of a barrel is $100. And then you can see it, that if this is going to shut down for 2 days, then this is the amount of money it's going to cost the country. And this is the implication also on the balance sheets of the companies. But through your study, you want to be able to fix that. If you're able to fix those kind of things, then you would have solved the problem. That is quantifiable. The other aspect that you need to pay attention to is the component of building your case study, like building the case for your study, building the case for yourself. So somebody comes in to say, I want to study maybe carbon capture and carbon storage. Another person comes in to say that he has, over the years, that this amount of carbon CO2 is being emitted in Nigeria. And then these are the health implications of CO2, like high volume CO2 in the air, on the people who live in that particular environment. You have defined that case. And then you are saying that if this is not controlled, Nigeria has the potential to emit even more. There will be projections of how much CO2 Nigeria is going to emit in the next 2 years. In consulting, it's called scaring the people. You are creating a situation where the person becomes a bit of scared and wants to now take the solution. Even in negotiations, people do that. So you create that scenario that makes the person listen to you. So you are saying that pollution is on the rise. At the current level is already dangerous. And then is even on the rise. And because it's continuing to be on the rise, something needs to be done about this particular pollution problem. And what do we do about the solution problem? I have the solution to the pollution problem in Nigeria. So everybody wants to listen to you at that point. But if you just come in and say, there is CO2, I want to go and inject CO2 into the ground. The question is, you have not answered why you are trying to do that. You have not even defined the implications of not doing it. So build that kind of environment and then launch out to talk about the relevance. Every one of these things link up to themselves. In every paragraph of your SOP, ask yourself, what are you talking about here? Are you talking about why you are studying that course? Are you talking about the relevance of that course? Are you talking about the impact of that course on national development? Or are you talking about your capacity, defining the fact that you are capable of completing this course if eventually you are given the opportunity to go there on the scholarship. If you have this framework in your mind, you will get these things done seamlessly and get an SOP that stands out of the crowd. All right, so the guys who are writing research proposals, I want to say a few things to you. You see, there is no research proposal that doesn't have a literature review in it. Even though when you look at the guideline PTDF gave on the website, it says introduction, I think methodology, is it method of data gathering and all that. It doesn't have any specific place for literature review. But the point is, there is no research proposal without a literature review in the standard form. So what you want to do is think about your introduction. Read through journal papers, for instance, and you will see that when introductions are written in journal papers, it comes as a mix of somebody trying to introduce an idea and from the position of the person also having reviewed a number of literature, a number of published work. So this is the way you should think about it and the way you should approach that section, because that's like the most important. That's introduction and the methodology are the most important segments of your own work as the PhD. All the other parts of the PhD work, almost all of you are going to get that correctly, but you need to be able to stand out from on these particular two areas. If you start writing your background story, think of it from the position of, or your introduction, think of it from the position of, so this is the way I see it. You think of it as the position of, from the position of a case, and then a gap and a main statement. Your case, the gap, and the main statement. The reason why you must do a literature review in every research proposal is because in the academia, your research topic has to be backed up by evidence that research has not been conducted before. And you cannot wake up and tell me that, or tell any academic that you want to go and study this paper. The question is, they want to know, has there been anybody in the whole wide world who has studied this paper before? If the person has studied this paper and then the person stopped at making the white version of the paper, and you are now saying that, okay, I know this person has studied this paper, but the person only studied how to make the white paper. How to make the white paper which the person has studied is your case. That's the existing knowledge. That's the background. What has already been done. Now, after you've defined that the person has done how to make this, the gap now becomes that this person has not considered how to make a blue version of this paper, for instance. And the statement now, which is your main statement, your main claim, is that your research is going to define or develop a process that is going to help the world to be making blue colors of this paper. And why does the world need the blue color of this paper? Because it's going to solve this problem. It's going to solve this problem. Maybe people who are, let's say if somebody is colorblind and the person cannot see white, if anything like that exists, then that person might be able to see blue. Now, let's bring it to oil and gas. When you come to the oil and gas industry and you are proposing a study, say you want to go and conduct research on how to use nanomaterials to improve drilling fluids, for instance, you will find that if you search through Google Scholar, you will see a number of research that has been completed on the use of nanomaterials in drilling fluids. Now, you are going to reference those people. You are going to cite them. Your research proposal should have in-text citation and a reference section at the end of it. All right, so so that your claims are built on the evidence of existing cases. The cases, nanomaterials have been used before in drilling fluids. but the use of nanomaterials in drilling fluids, for instance, maybe was limited to, say, oil-based mud. And now you are developing a new form of oil-based mud, which is maybe a blend of a different kind of material. And you are saying that nobody has studied the impact of nanomaterials on this particular drilling fluid, or the existing literature studied the impact of nanomaterials on drilling fluid within the temperature range of 80 to 120, and you want to study it within the temperature range of 140 to 200 for high temperature wells, for instance. Or the applications of nanomaterials in drilling fluids has been limited to maybe drilling in areas where the reservoir is carbonate. So you really cannot determine the impact of. These are just examples. These things are not scientifically proven. I'm just quoting examples and trying to shape our minds on how we'll think. So you are saying that this has been tested in maybe carbonate reservoirs, but nobody has actually studied how this can improve or maybe how this can worsen the productivity or the recovery ratio from sandstone reservoirs. Like, how does it affect the skin factor of a sandstone reservoir? Somebody has done this and somebody has not done this. Now I am trying to do this because we need to understand it. If we have a good understanding of how these nanomaterials are going to behave in sandstone reservoirs, then it's going to maybe cut costs, it's going to maybe increase the number of barrels we are able to recover, or it's going to maybe save the industry money in terms of not going to use it on the sandstone reservoirs and then damage the productivity of the reservoirs. These are the ways you think about your research proposal. There has to be a case, an existing case study, an existing background study, what has been done, and then what is the gap that has not been covered. And once you start a PhD, you become conversant with that expression, gap in knowledge, because what every PhD tries to do is to fix a particular gap in knowledge. There's always a gap in knowledge that you have to fix during your PhD. And once you're able to figure out that gap in knowledge, then you have developed for yourself a research proposal that is sound enough. All right. I think that was pretty much helpful. Every other thing I think is consistent with what I have said before. You try to always think about those areas that we've mentioned, and then this will help you to get the best version of your SOP. Now, I don't know how much time we still have, but let me see if there are some questions already flying around this place. I'm going to move my screens a little bit so that is easier to look through. Questions. Jonathan is watching, David is watching. No requirements for font size and spacing for proposal, please sir. What is the standard? This is from Obina Wala. So Obina, this is what I would say. Just do every standard writing should be in, maybe there are, I think, 3 fonts that people use commonly in the UK, and in Nigeria I think it's usually Times New Roman, Arial, I think it's called Arial, and then Vedana. I think Times New Roman and Arial are more common in Nigeria, but I prefer to use Arial. It looks more standard to me than Times New Roman or Vedana. Vedana is the one that in my school is Vedana that they use. In fact, any document you prepare for submission in my school has to be Vedana. So do that one, and then do standard font size, like font size 11 should usually be okay. Font size 11, 12, but I would rather stay with like 11 so that it gives me some level of leverage on how many words I can write. Then standard spacing as well should be fine for your research proposal. And don't expand the borders of your page too widely. Just make it standard, and then do not do so much of customization on it. right? That is where they have not said any standard, define the format that you must use. That question came from Facebook. I believe those on YouTube are also benefiting from it. Any other questions? So you can start bringing in the questions you have just now, and then we'll be able to go through them and answer them. So somebody is saying on Facebook, thank you, sir, for the information. I have the same issue as graduate of veterinary medicine, but I realized I can go and study one of the environmental courses, environmental public health, occupational health, the directly relevant to oil and gas, as well as my undergraduate course. So yeah, that's it. Perfect. That's not a question. That was somebody just confirming that the suggestions I gave were okay. Any questions, you can start dropping the questions just right now. Anslem is saying, I am finding it difficult to upload my publication. The website said that my publication is too big. What should I do? So what you should do, yeah, and this is for everybody, if you have any document that is too big, if the document is JPEG, that's if it's a picture, open it with Microsoft Office Paint. There's one app that is called Paint in Microsoft. It comes with every Microsoft. It comes with every Windows operating system. So when you open it there, look for a function that is called resize. When you click on that resize, it's going to give you the option to reduce by a particular percentage. If it's the pixel size or the measurement, you can choose like say 80%, and then it shrinks that document by 20%. So it takes off 20% of the weight. And if you can't access that, the other place, if it's a picture or a PDF or any of those kind of things, go to one website. The website is called ilovepdf.com. ilovepdf.com. That I love is written together, and PDF, ilovepdf.com. Just search for it, go there. It will give you the option to convert from one format to the other. You can go from, I think, from picture to PowerPoint, from PowerPoint to PDF, from PDF to this, from Excel to that, from Word to that. But it also gives you the opportunity to squeeze, like to reduce the size of, to compress is the word they use there, to compress the size of your document. So go there, compress it. You can choose like medium compression, you can choose high compression. Start with medium compression and then go to high if need be, and that will be able to reduce your document to the right size. So usually document sizes are very challenging with Nigerian websites. I don't know why, but it's just what it is, and that's how you have to work with it. So somebody is saying, my question is that can we change course and university after getting the award? Yes, you can change. In the past, I know somebody who got the scholarship for oil and gas and eventually changed to data science, and PTDF was fine with it. My research proposal also changed after my interview. The research proposal changed as well. So there is room for that, but in most cases you have to inform PTDF that you are making this change and then provide reasons for which you are making that change. But changes are possible. The only change that you must be conscious of and know that is not possible is if you have chosen to come to the UK, just know that you can't move from the UK to either Malaysia or France or to Germany. But if you choose Germany, for instance, and it becomes impossible for you to get admission into a German school, on certain occasions, PTDF can allow you to switch to France or switch to Malaysia, because the way they treat the scholarship is like France, Germany, and Malaysia are like one block in the scholarship, and then the UK is a different block in the scholarship. So the website is ilovepdf.com. There's another one called smallpdf.com, but that one has limitations. So go for ilovepdf.com and that will be fine. Any other questions coming from Facebook? I'm not sure. So let's look at YouTube and see the questions that we have there. Somebody is saying, sir, can I submit a different SOP from that which I uploaded on the PTDF portal? Usually PTDF is going to give you room to modify your SOP if you are shortlisted. So once you are shortlisted for the interview, you have like a couple of days to update some information on the website, on the portal, and then during that period you can make modifications on your SOP. And then that final version becomes what you walk to the interview with. I believe that helps. Somebody is asking, the other one said, good job, got more grace. Thank you so much for that. Somebody is asking, how long does it take to publish papers? It depends on the journal. There are journals that will take you like 4 months before they respond to your manuscript. Like the peer reviewers get to respond to your manuscript. There are some journals that are pretty fast. Mostly the MDPI journals are relatively very fast. Those ones, you submit your work and you can expect to get the publication in like 1 month. Sometimes maybe relatively faster, depend. If it's like a review paper, they could finalize the publication of review papers on MDPI within like 2-3 weeks. Yeah, but for actual journal papers, you may want to like all these results driven journal papers, I would say you may want to be targeting somewhere around 1 month and between 1 month and a month and 2 weeks on the minimum. But then even if you don't have the publications now, you can plan to get the publication before the interview date. That's also going to be fine. They are going to still consider that. So the next question is, and what's the minimum required for PhD application? As in terms of minimum number of publications, PTDF doesn't really give you a number. They just tell you that you need to have this. But the experience I had in the past, Lukman Mustafa, interesting. Lukman, you're welcome to the live stream. That name is spelled with Russian alphabets. I don't know if you studied in Russia. So, but what I have seen in the past is that this is my suspicion. I am not sure if this is correct. But in the past, I think if you had like 3 journal papers, that was always going to be enough. If you had like 5, you can carry the 5 to the place. It's left for them to now select. But I think in my time, it was just 3 that were really considered as relevant. So I think they had like 6 points attached to journal publications in my time. This is a guess based on observation. And I think each of the publications carried like 2 points. And once you tick the 6 points, the total number of points, then all the other ones become non-relevance per se for the purpose of PTDF application. But there is no minimum number and they are not giving you a maximum number. Then somebody is saying, if I should University of Portsmouth as my first choice, I am to choose the same university for the rest of... No, you can choose different universities as your choices. That's Mohammed Abdulaziz. You can choose Portsmouth, you can choose RGU, you can choose any other place. But if you are going for PhD in the UK, just know that there are only 3 schools now that are partners of PTDF when it comes to PhD studies in the UK. And that's Strathclyde, Robert Gordon, and Portsmouth. Robert Gordon is where I'm studying, and then Portsmouth is in England. Strathclyde is also in Scotland, about 3 hours, 30 minutes drive from Robert Gordon. So you need to bear that in mind. Please, we in Agri, can our study area in Nigeria or be in Nigeria oil and gas producing state? If I understand the question, I think what you are trying to say is whether people who studied agri has a way of relating relevance to the industry, and I think is yes. The direct example I'll give you is to think about Ogoni and the implications of that oil spillage on the farming activities going on there, or think about the implications of oil spillage in a river to the aquatic life, to the fishes and all of those things, and how does that impact food security. And then think about something that you can study to either prevent that or to help to clean up the environment where those things have happened already. If you can think of it that way, that will be direct relevance. Good Variety TV is saying is first and second third choice of country, research area, and research topic as PhD applicants. Can I use one research proposal for the three options? Actually, I think the person who designed that website needs to go back and look into it again. You can use one research proposal, and when I applied, I had only one research proposal. That's just it. You can use one research proposal, and you can choose different universities, but the research proposal remains the same. If I'm going to study oil and gas, any of the schools that does oil and gas should be able to supervise my research in oil and gas. If I'm going to do agric, any of the school that does agric, for instance, should be able to supervise my PhD, so I can use the same research proposal. By the way, before I forget, as you are submitting this application, start submitting application to schools, especially for those who are going for PhD, because if you are able to get the consent of a potential supervisor and go through an interview with any potential supervisor, it's going to prepare you for the PTDF interview itself. That's going to be really very helpful. If you can, pursue it. Somebody is asking, please, my question is that while applying online, there is no provision for where I can attach my publication and professional certificates. At that point, are we to present, at what point are we to present it? Is it, well, the point is that if, like, for this particular year, I have not registered, like I have not gone through the application portal. So I've seen somebody in the comment section saying that the his own situation is that the size of the document he wants to upload is too big. I'm seeing somebody saying there is no provision to attach. However, if you followed the conversation, I said if there is no provision to attach your professional memberships, mention that professional membership in your SOP. Don't have professional memberships and not make it visible at this application stage. But definitely at the point of going for the interview, you will be required to carry your professional memberships, your publications, your original certificates. You are supposed to bring, in fact, even your local government identification. You're going to bring all of those things to the physical interview. I hope that helps with that question. So let me look back on Facebook and see what the people are saying there. Look, man. Okay, look, man, please, can someone with MSc in pharmaceutical chemistry apply for a PhD under the PTDF? Then goes on to say, can someone with MSc in pharmaceutical chemistry apply for PhD under the PTDF scholarship? How can you shed more light on how I can relate with the objectives of PTDF? There are a number of ways you can relate that. Depending on what your interest is. But I'm being careful here because one of the documents I reviewed was somebody from a similar case, somebody who has a background in pharmacy and applying, and the person was able to relate something. So if you have pharmaceutical chemistry background, the question is, what exactly does pharmaceutical chemistry cover? Does it cover drug analysis? If it covers drug analysis, does it go a little bit further to cover drug interaction with the human body? If it does that, can you think about maybe an area of, let's say, maybe oil and gas operations, that analytical chemistry part of you can be used in? Can you analyze maybe produced oil water? Can you analyze maybe which other aspect of oil and gas now? Can you do any analytical work on any byproduct of oil and gas to determine the health and human implications of that? If that is the case, then pick one of those byproducts of those things that are considered waste in oil and gas, and then develop your research proposal around it, and then link up how your skills in pharmacy helps you to understand that particular material understand the implications of the material on human health, either maybe trace it through when it goes through offshore, in like it goes offshore and contaminates maybe the fishes, and then trace that's how it goes to human beings and then affects the human life and all that and all that. This is just me sitting here and talking and thinking about this, like, but the point is that it's not as difficult. If it becomes very difficult to you, there is one technical assistant that all of us have now. It's called Chat GPT. If it becomes very technical, difficult, just take it and ask Chat GPT to give you ideas and then develop the idea. I've mentioned Chat GPT a number of times, but please do not copy and paste from Chat GPT. It's going to hurt your application. Don't go to ChatGPT and, oh, it gave me this one. You just copy it, lift it, piam, paste. It's going to hurt your application badly. I hope that helps, Lukman. Somebody else is asking, there was a question I jumped somewhere. Okay, that's Sunny. Due to the late application commencement this year, do you think it will be possible to get the award for September? What PTDF, the position of PTDF is that they are pushing for the awards to be taken by September. That is what I understand from the body language of PTDF. However, your primary concern as a person should be to win the scholarship, because if you win the scholarship, it is usually valid for 1 full year. That means if you win the scholarship now, you can take up the scholarship by this time next year without even having to write to defer it. And if anything happens that you can't take it up by this time next year, then you can apply to be considered for deferment. That kind of stuff. But that's the way it works. It's the effort is to get people to study, to travel this year. But if that becomes impossible, then you can travel in January. You can travel some other time next year. I hope that helps. Somebody says, please can you drop tips for business related courses? Interesting. Business people are here. Okay, so for the business related courses and even the legal courses, what you can do is to think about okay, if I may ask, what aspect of business are you looking at? Are you looking at accounting? Or are you looking at economics? Are you looking at what area are you looking at exactly? Yes, you can. You need to add reference to your research proposal. That's what makes it a research proposal. Otherwise, it's not. So the person who honor, can you give a little bit of an idea of the area of business you are coming from so that I can help you better? Onyempa is asking, please, how can a 2-2 BSc holder in science laboratory technology who has worked about 6 years in a foam mattress manufacturing factory put up a good and successful application for MSc? I'm just thinking about it. So you have worked for 6 years and you have a 2-2 and the area is science laboratory technology and the work was in a foam mattress manufacturing industry. Okay, so do you know, in foam manufacturing, I would think that you have a lot to do with polymers, right? Or a level of interaction with polymers. So you can basically look at the use of applications of polymers or in the oil and gas industry. It could be from enhancement of oil recovery to reducing water ratio to maybe even plug and abandonment to different areas. So that's the best that can come to my mind immediately. You can think about polymers because the foam manufacturing process, the much I know, is a material science kind of study. It's more of, I think, to a large extent, polymer engineering, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But if that is the case, then think about the use of similar materials in oil and gas. Can you use foams to, can you use materials, polymers to increase this, to reduce that, and all that, and all that. The business person, I can't see you anymore. I was asking, what aspect of business is it? Are you coming from economics, from marketing, from which part? Because if you are coming from accounting, there is oil and gas accounting that you can take up. If you are coming from economics, there is economics of oil and gas that you can take up. A lot of the things that oil and gas companies do are driven by the economics. If it doesn't make sense economically, then nobody does it. If, in fact, when they start producing from a well, if at some point they realize that the well is still flowing oil, but at this point we're not making any profits, they shut down that well and eventually abandon it, or sell it off, or give it out to, lease it out to another operator who are for whom it makes economic sense to continue to operate. What else? Does any other person have any other question? I think no. It looks like we have answered all the questions, haven't we? I didn't plan to stretch this long. I thought we were going to finish like in an hour 30 minutes, but here we are. This is almost 2 hours just now. If there is no other question, then I will want to call this a day today. Somebody joined us all the way from Malawi. Welcome to this live stream today, and thank you for joining from Malawi and staying around. I don't think there is any other question, and because there is no other question, I will then proceed. Okay, international business management. International business management. International business management. So that's the course you already studied, or the course you are going to study, because the oil and gas industry is, if you are going to look at any of the oil and gas in itself, is an international business. Forget about the fact that we produce in Nigeria, and that's why the when you join some oil and gas companies in Nigeria, they will tell you that the unit of measuring money in oil and gas is dollars. It is an international business itself. So I am not sure now if you are approaching it from international business management in terms of trying to, you can try to look at it from different angles. You can be on the on the downstream side. You can also be on the upstream side. The problems of international business are going to always affect oil and gas, because you're either going to be importing your drilling bits, or going to be importing your, bringing in your rigs, or trying to bring in this or bring in that. So everything that deals with international businesses are also directly affecting the oil and gas companies. In the movement of rigs, for instance, recently I saw in the news that I think Shelf Drilling, they moved one of their rigs. They had a rig, a drilling rig, that was supposed to do a contract in Saudi Arabia, and then somewhere along the line, I think that contract was cancelled or moved, and then that rig has now moved to Nigeria to go and drill some wells there, maybe drill some wells or do some workovers there. And all this is like, the company Shelf is owned by, I think the owners are from Abu Dhabi or Dubai, and then you see them moving to Saudi Arabia to do a business, and then you see them moving down to Nigeria to do business. If that is the angle I am seeing, then that is also something that maybe answers the question of the next person. Hello, sir. For someone who read international relations with experience travel industry, can I consider logistics and supply chain management as an MSc course? Of course. If you studied international relations, you can consider supply chain management as your course. You can also even consider, I don't know if PTDF has it. I think they have international relations. I think they have international relations on the PTDF application portal. Somebody correct me if I am wrong. But if they don't have international relations, yeah, logistics is another part that you can consider, because then you are bringing in international relations to international logistics and supply chain. That's just the way you can do it. Yeah. Have we been able to help everybody today? And will everybody now go to this PTDF application and smash it? You know, when I do these things, a lot of people, those who don't know me, they just come in, and sometimes it feels to people like, oh, these people are just making content out of all these things. But if you listen to me very carefully, you will find that I share things that you won't hear from most of the other places that you go to. And the reason is because I have been on different scholarships, and I understand how scholarships work. And somehow I understand networking a lot. And because I understand networking a lot, I know that you need to speak the language of the person from whom you are looking for something. If you are looking for a scholarship from PTDF, speak the language of PTDF. Speak a language they are interested in hearing. Don't try to twist them into funding your personal interest. Your personal interest must align with the interest of your funding organization. If your personal interest does not align with the interest of the funding organization, then you've made a mistake. Fundamentally. That's why when I started talking about impact, I took time to emphasize that the first layer of impact you must think about is that one that aligns with PTDF's primary goal. You need to speak the language of the person. And you see how, for instance, I sit here and I can give you examples of how this course relates to this, how this course relates to this, how this one relates to this. And that's because apart from studying these things, I have worked in this industry. So apart from just the book knowledge, I know that from industry practice, these are the challenges and these are the pain points of the industry. In fact, being in the industry is part of why I decided to do what I am doing, because I know, or I knew at the time, that this was the next chapter that the industry was going into. And that's the way it's playing out. So what am I trying to say? Take every information you've heard here today seriously. Don't play with any of them. And if you come across any video from either myself or from Academy of Scholarships and Transitions, take those videos seriously. If you come across any information, take them seriously, because these things are not just mere say. They no be just say person won't talk. There is a reason why we are saying the things we are saying. And I'm going to, after this conversation, I'm going to go back and share some old testimonials. If you go to the old videos we have done on this PTDF scholarship thing, you will see testimonials in the comment section. And I'm going to share some that that I have somewhere saved on my computer, so that your confidence is reinforced on the fact that the information you have, if you run with it, you're going to get to the right place. And this is Academy of Scholarships and Transitions. What you heard today is about the scholarships. Other days we talk about the transitions component of what we do here. And everything we've done today all of them will be useful to you. And I want to wish you well. Go out there, do the best you can, win the scholarship, and come back here to testify. This is Academy of Scholarships and Transitions. I want to say bye-bye from Scotland. And I look forward to meeting those of you who will be coming to RGU. Hopefully, if you're able to come by September, then we're going to meet in school. And if you happen to be choosing RGU, please reach out and ask questions about your supervisors, and reach out and ask questions basically. Reach out and ask questions. If you are going to any school as PhD, reach out and ask questions about the supervisors you are going to choose, because a supervisor can make your journey easy or make your journey really long. All right? Thank you so much for your time, and then see you again some other time. Bye bye for now. And you can copy this video and share with your friends who are applying as well. And see, if the best way you can help me or help this platform to achieve the goal we want to achieve is copy this link to this video and share it on your social media profile or on your WhatsApp status, just anywhere. Just copy the link and share it. If you're on Facebook, just share the video. If you're on YouTube, copy the link and share somewhere on your social media profile. That's the way you help us. And if you notice, there are places you go to and you hear these things and you have to pay money. There's a reason why I don't charge money when I talk about scholarships as a sponsored student. Maybe after my scholarship, then those things can change. But as a sponsored student, it is a commitment to not charge anybody money for anything. I've spent time to review SOPs without charges. Sometimes it feels like, what's going on? What's going on? All right. Good evening, and do have a very wonderful night. I wish you the very best. Bye bye for now.